My name is Robert Thompson, Oral History Project Manager for the Rehoboth Beach Museum, and I'm here at the museum with Marjorie Biles. Today is Friday, October 27th, 2022. Ms. Biles, would you please state your full name and spell it?
Okay, my full name is Marjorie Duffy Biles, and it's M-A-R-J-O-R-I-E, and my maiden name is D-U-F-F-Y, and the last name is Biles, B-I-L-E-S.
Would you please tell me where you were born and your date of birth, please?
Okay, I was born in Beebe Hospital, and I will say I was born in the basement, and my date of birth is January the 16th, 1950.
What were your parents' names and where were they from?
My father was Fred Duffy, and my mother, Sarah Hall Duffy. And I believe Mom's family is in the Millsboro, Clarksville area. And my father was here in Rehoboth in this area. His family's been here for years.
When did his family come here?
Jeez, I don't know.
Approximately.
Yeah, I don't know when his family came, but I do know that his father was a sharecropper, and one of my uncles was a sharecropper as well. My dad was not. He worked for Charles Mills, who bought the land over in what is known now as West Rehoboth for people of color to live. Well, my dad worked for him, and he was a welder. So he made fences for Mr. Mills, who he sold to other people. My mother, she did domestic work. She worked a lot of homes here in the Rehoboth area.
Like Henlope and Acres?
Henlope and Acres and some, yeah, but you know, on this side of the bridge.
Yes.
Yes.
So you grew up in Rehoboth Beach?
I did.
Where did you live growing up?
Growing up, I lived on Airport Road, and there were 3 black families that lived there. And there was a little store at the end, on the southern end of it, and it was called Collins. We call it Collins Boys Store, and it had ice cream. You could buy gas there, all kinds of snacks and things like that. The other side of us, the northern end of it, where everybody was white, but we played with them. So, we really didn't know that there was black and there was white. We, grew up with people of different colors. They were just kids.
Yeah.
Just people. Just people.
Well, tell me a little bit about your school years, and then I want to go back to the Collins store.
Okay.
About your school years. What was the first school that you attended?
The first school was Rehoboth Elementary 200C, which stands for colored. So we were all African American people that went there, and it was wonderful. It was like a little family, and we knew the cooks, and we knew what they were going to cook, and the teachers were Priscilla and Althea Fountain from Milford. Excuse me. That was 1 through 5. Now, the 6th grade, my teacher was George Smith, who was the first black mayor in Lewis. It was George Smith, and he taught his class over, again, I'm referencing West Rehoboth, in the American Legion building. So that's where the 6th graders went.
Is that the building where the Y is now?
No,
Okay.
It's over in West Rehoboth. I think they have torn it down. But it is right, when you go into West Rehoboth, it would have been on your left. I'm thinking there are condos or something in that area now, and also maybe a realtor. There's some type of business there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from there you went?
From there I went from 7th grade through 10th grade. I went to William C. Jason High School in Georgetown. And we would catch a bus every morning, and the bus would take us over and, of course, bring us back at night. Excuse me, the class of 1967 was the last class to graduate from William C. Jason, and I would have graduated in 1968. So my parents did not want me to change schools because I know that they felt that it was going to be difficult anyway. But then, curriculum-wise, it would really have been too much. So they sent my youngest brother and I, we went there in '67. And I graduated from the Rehoboth Special School District in 68, I'm sorry. Yes.
And on to college.
Yeah, I did. I actually never left home. Well, I never stayed on campus, let's put it that way. Every school that was over at Del Tech, I have been there. I started out parallel with the University of Delaware, and then I got married, and we moved to, after Cornell went to Vietnam, he came back, and then we lived in Alexandria, Virginia for a while. So we came back, but it was my goal, well, my father always wanted all of us to have the opportunity to get a college education. Well, my sister did, she went to Del State University, and it was Delaware State College at that time, which is now Delaware State University. Then she went on to the University of Delaware, and that's where she got her master's. She started working on her PhD at William Penn, and then she decided after all those years of working, I don't need a PhD, and she quit. Now, my twin brothers, my parents tried to send them off to college as well. They were out on Route 1 hitchhiking home most of the time because they really didn't want to be there in the first place. So they spent a lot of time out there hitchhiking and coming back home. One of them ended up joining the Army, and the other one joined the Coast Guard. So meanwhile, there was me still going through all the different colleges over at Del Tech in Georgetown University. Yeah,
Was that Jason?
It was the Jason building. That's now, and that's now the campus of the southern campus of Delaware Tech.
So did it switch over about '68 after DSEG?
I would say so. Yeah, about that time. Yeah, I can't give an exact time, but yes.
Because Jason was specifically for African Americans.
It was. Mm-hmm.
So, and there was no more segregation.
So. No, there was not at that point.
So then it
They transferred it over. Yes.
Converted it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a better word.
Yes.
So.
That's very interesting.
It was.
Very interesting.
It was. So then, of course, I went to Rehoboth Special School District for my 11th and 12th grade years, and it was different. As I said before,
Was that in the old Lewis?
No, it's still there. Well, they just tore it down because they just built an elementary school here in Rehoboth. But it
on
was
Savannah Road?
In Rehoboth.
Oh, in Rehoboth.
Rehoboth.
Okay, I see.
Mm-hmm. So
where Wayne Paskins taught.
Yes, she did. Yes. So that's where they tore our building down.
Because there was a school over in Lewis behind the old high school that they just tore down.
That they just renovated.
And Hurley Waples went to a school behind that.
And so did my mother. Yeah, my mother did too. My parents.
What was that school's name?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Thomas.
Well, no. Well,
something.
Fred Thomas taught there, I believe.
I think it was the Fred Thomas School.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm
I don't
not either.
know. Because Fred Thomas would have been about my parents' age.
Okay.
So if my mother went there, it wasn't.
Could have been named after him.
No, it was not. So, and then,
and then on to college. Tell me a little bit. How many siblings do you have?
I had an older sister who passed away in 2000. That was Betty, and she was like 14 years older than me. So, she was my sister, but excuse me, at times she thought she was my mother. And then I have twin brothers who are 2 years older than me, and I have another brother who is 2 years younger than me, and he lives in Durham, North Carolina, he and his wife. The other two brothers, they live with me, they live where I live. My parents bought about 12 or 13 acres of land because they wanted to make sure that we had a decent place to live. It is off the beaten path. Most people do not know that we're there. Just family members. Our road is not paved. It has stuff in it, but it's not paved. As a matter of fact, excuse me, the paramedics had to come. Last year it wasn't for me, but I had a friend that was visiting at the house and became ill. The paramedics came and they were standing out. They didn't know it was there. They did not know it was there. So they were standing out in the yard going, oh my God, this is a piece of heaven. Who would have thought? Except one guy who was still kept his head about him. He went in the house to see about the patient.
Yeah. Now, where was this property? Off of Airport Road?
Yeah, you would turn off of Airport
There's
Road.
Wharton's.
I'm sorry?
There's Wharton's.
No, yes, so you're on this end, you're on the southern end.
Yes.
Where that.
And the old airport used to be out there.
Yes, and my brothers had little after-school jobs there because we lived there. I had a little job, that was my first job, I had a little job there
It was
too.
grass.
It was grass, but I have no idea what they did, except I do know that they rode in the airplanes with the pilots, and I would not do it because they were too small.
Did the banner planes take off?
Yes.
From there?
Yes, yes, one of my brothers would help to do that. And
Is it true that they would put them between the goalposts and they would
fly down and hope they caught it? And if not, they'd go back and try it again. Yeah, that's how that was.
So you're closer to the airport.
I am actually. The airport was our road is part of the airport. It was a big, it was a lot for my parents to get a new right-of-way across that property. The airport was not the problem. It was what is now Camelot. The owner was the one that gave us a hard time, and we felt that what he was doing was trying to squeeze us out.
So it went all the way back to Camelot.
Well, Camelot is on the side. Is on the side of the airport. You know, there's the airport, and then the next property over would have been the next southern end of the property would have been Camelot.
Yes.
And that runs all the way back to where our property is.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And now.
So when did your dad buy this? Approximately.
Gosh.
Well, approximately.
I have no idea.
60s, 50s.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know. But look, but think about this. That was about 12 acres or 13 acres, and I think for the entire lot, my parents paid $2,000 for it. Now imagine that.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was. And the other thing is, even, it doesn't sound like much money to you and I, but at that time it was for them because they were working to support four kids in the house and one off at college. So they made a sacrifice, and that's why we hold on to it. It was and I appreciate what they did. I truly appreciate what they did.
Can you imagine what it's worth today?
Yes, I can only imagine.
I would hang on to it.
Yes, we plan. That's our plan.
So where did you shop? You talked about the Collins store.
Yeah, now that was...
There was another store up by the Shell Shop or someplace, up that way, I forget.
By the Shell Shop?
Maybe not the Shell Shop, but...
No, at the end of Airport Road was Collins, and they call it Collins Boys. And then farther into Rehoboth, there was another store, as you would turn to come, Rehoboth Extended, I believe it is, that you cross the bridge here. And there was Haddock's, which was on the one side, and then you come a little closer to the bridge, and that was Mrs. Morgan's store. So they were little stores, that you could go to shop at. But when my mother did grocery shopping, she would usually go to A&P in Lewis, and also there was an A&P downtown Rehoboth, and she would go there to shop.
Yes, over where Gold's Gym used to be, in that shopping center.
That's where they moved. It was on Rehoboth Avenue, the corner of Rehoboth Avenue.
Okay.
I think
Wasn't it the American store and the A&P were next to each other at one time?
I don't remember.
It was probably before your time.
Oh, I doubt that because I'm old as dirt. So.
Because we were talking with Wayne's brother, and he lived at the Country Club Drive Road, and he talked about some stores, and there was one store that the husband and wife ran it, and maybe that was the Collins store, I'm not sure.
Well, the Collins store, the husband and the wife did run it. She did more running, and he did more sitting and talking to people.
And they had a brother? She had a brother?
No, but they had a son.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who that was that Wardell was talking about.
Did they have, was it a full grocery store or
No.
just pick up?
Yeah, you could
A
get
few.
bread there. I believe you could get milk there. I definitely know you could get ice cream and candy there.
Kind of like a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, and then you could get gas.
Oh.
And that's where we would get our gas all the time for the cars. Yeah.
Okay, great. Tell me a little bit about your husband. I think you met him, didn't you go to high school with him?
Oh, yeah, we were high school sweethearts. And
Oh.
after high school, we got married. There was a lot of people in my class. We got married.
How
and
many
he-
were in your class, by the way, approximately?
Oh, my God, I don't know. I was afraid you would ask me that. I don't know. I'm in my graduating class. I can tell you it wasn't, I don't know. Were there 50 of us, maybe?
It's a good amount.
Yeah, it could have been, yeah.
Were they all African American?
No, when I
It was
graduated.
integrated. by
It
the
was integrated when we went there in '67. We integrated the school.
How
Now-
did they treat you when you went in as a group of African Americans into a white school? Were
Yeah,
you
well-
welcomed, or
Well, I
did
will
you
tell you.
assimilate easily? Or?
Yeah, I will tell you this. My husband went to school there before I did. He was the first African American male to go. His mother refused to send him and his sister to William C. Jason. She said, when there's a school right here. So, it was pretty hard. It was tough on them when they went to school there. But, and if you were to talk to him about his earlier years at Rehoboth, it would bring tears to his eyes. That's how sad it was. But it wasn't that way when I went, because we went in as a group, and you did know that there was a difference because you got the stares as if you were, you had a disease or something. But it was not, I will say this, it was not everybody. It was not everyone.
But it wasn't overt. I mean, it was like stares. It wasn't like pranks or name calling. Or...
They did not call me any names. You knew that there was some who really did not like you, but they did not call me any names because I could probably handle, the name calling. But as long as they didn't touch me, I was all right. But I did not think that they would do anything to hurt me because, let's put it this way, I had my posse with me and I felt good. But yeah, I made a lot of lifetime friends, and a lot of the people that I went to, the white people that I went to school with, they're still very, very good friends, very good friends. So.
But your husband didn't experience.
He later on in life, because what he was one of the played sports, and he did very, very well in sports. So everyone knew Parnell Biles. So he got to be quite popular, and he still had made a lot of friends there as well, But when he first went there, he really, really, he caught it. It was not a good experience at all.
Where did he grow up?
He was born in Wadesboro, North Carolina. Then his parents broke up, and he moved with his mother and his sisters because his brothers were all older, and so they worked out. But he moved to Baltimore with them. So I don't know how they ended up in Rehoboth, but he ended up here with his sisters and his mother. Actually, he lived across from the American Legion, where we went to 6th grade. And the house that he lived in was Mr. Harmon, and who was related to Wayne and Wardell Harmon. So that was their relative, and I guess...
But not their father or grandfather.
No, it wasn't father. I think he was an uncle that lived there. Actually, that was, at that time, they would have, if you will, viewings after a person passed away in the home, if you can imagine that. And he was the first person, and what we did, I was still in probably 5th grade because he had done so much for the community. The school wanted to honor him, so we marched over, our class went over to view the body, and that was the first body that I have ever
That you had
seen.
seen. Well, that brings up something that
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked into or hasn't come to mind. African American funeral homes.
Okay.
There, in the old days, there was Atkins and there were different funeral homes around. I know over in Lewis.
Right.
Atkins and Parcell mix.
Yeah.
Was there a local funeral home that African Americans
Yes,
used?
there was one. His name, it was
it
Miller's Funeral Home. And Robert hasn't been gone that long. And so he did a lot of the African American bodies.
Where was that located?
Well, I think at one point he was in Laurel, but he usually worked out of another funeral director's, that he did his bodies in there. But he took care of most of the African Americans in Sussex County at that time. And now, of course, there are others. Well, they're not located in Sussex, but in Kent County. Yeah, there's others around now.
That's interesting. I didn't. Do you think still that it's African Americans use one and white, others use another one? It seemed like that should be something that's
right. Yeah, a body's a body.
Exactly.
Now, African Americans now, they will use a white funeral director. I think I would say that the reason we would use an African American, well, first of all, is to support the African American business, but also that they do a better job of the body because they're familiar with what we look like and our pigmentation and things like that.
Yes, hair and makeup and all of that. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But there are white funeral directors that do a great job now as well. So.
How about doctors? What doctors did you use in the old?
I went to Dr. Pierce.
Now, he was white.
He was white. As a matter of fact, my sister was his babysitter for his family, but wherever they went, she wasn't working. She went with them. They made sure because she was family.
And he lived in Rehoboth and had practice
He lived in
Rehoboth.
Rehoboth, yeah. As a matter of fact, his son, Carl, is on the board of directors here. And
Yes.
yeah, and it's a wonderful family. I would say that was a family who did not see color. They were just wonderful people.
Because there was Dr. Klingel, his son used to be on the board here
yes,
as well.
And I had also used Dr. Klingel and Parnell and I in our old, when we got married. But Dr. Pierce, more or less, at that time was taking care of children, more or less. But I think other people went, adults went there as well.
Right. Now, growing up here, were you, when you were younger, were you welcome in, let's say, the library? Were there areas? Do you remember when you went to the movies and you had to sit upstairs?
When we went to the movies, we did have to sit upstairs.
And I also heard that there was a bus station here, and they had, in the back, they had colored bathrooms.
Yes.
Would you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I never went, because I still, to this day, have a problem with public bathrooms. So I really didn't go, but I knew about that. And I also knew that when there was a water fountain downtown, you weren't supposed to drink out of that
Was
either.
it labeled?
We just knew that you weren't supposed to do it, and your parents told you don't do it, so you didn't do it. That's the same as the movie theater. We would go, and we were supposed to sit upstairs. Even when I was in high school, we were supposed to sit upstairs. Well, we would sit upstairs, but all the our white friends, they would go up there too, because they said it was more fun up there. So
Probably could see better.
well, yeah, and then they did other things too, like throwing things down on other people. I didn't get into that, but I knew that they did, it was going on.
I can't believe you were a goody two-shoes.
Well, I was too, because I always wanted to make my dad proud of me. My mother was always on my case anyway, the mother-daughter thing. So, but my dad just thought I was all of that in a bag of chips.
Oh.
And then another thing
Daddy's
he did,
little darling.
yes, he not only wanted all of us to further our educations, but we all had to take piano. We had to take piano lessons. I took classical piano for about 6 years, and that was money out of their
Who was the
pockets.
piano teacher here?
Blanche Thompson, and she has since passed away. But yeah, she was
Was
down
she
here.
African American?
No, she was not. She was not. And he found her, and that we would go after school, and I kept it up. My brothers all of a sudden got tired of it. It's like, we're not doing that anymore. But I did. I continued to play. And no, I do not play now.
Because Henrietta Pearson used to play.
Oh my gosh, she was awesome. She was an awesome lady.
We did an oral history of her just before she passed away, and at the end she played the piano.
Did she really?
Yes.
Yeah, she was awesome. And she played for our choir because I attend, at that time, it started out as Mount Pleasant, which is now Faith United Methodist Church. So she was the organ. Well, she didn't play the organ. She played the piano there. And so she was the choir director.
Where is that located? Is that the one over on Church Street?
On Church Street, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still there.
And Hurley Waples made a replica when we had the exhibit?
Yes.
Of it?
Yeah, well, I think he made a replica of not only that church, but he also did, there were 4 churches on the charge: John Wesley, St. Paul, Israel, and Mount Pleasant.
Where are they located?
St. Paul, they sold that church, and it's still on, is it 4th Street in Lewis? It was considered in the black section. And
I know that church.
Yeah. And,
West 4th Street.
Yeah, some ladies know that might be Friendship Baptist you're referring to.
It's on the left-hand side going towards Ship Carpenter Square, this one that I'm talking about.
Okay, you're on the right one. That was St. Paul, and it has now been, someone bought it and they turned it into a house, and they said it's beautiful on the inside. When they were giving tours, I didn't get a chance to get in, but that was one of the churches. Yeah, and then Israel is on Plantation Road. John Wesley was in Belltown. It's still there, but they had bought it for a homeless shelter, but I think they had some problems trying to, get permission to use it so right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Was that down by Dale's place? Dale, I forget her last name.
No, not that far out.
She has the soup kitchen.
Yes, but not that far out. It's right in a little block. It was predominantly
near the 200C school that's still
Yes, exactly. It was across the street from it, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to get my bearings.
Yes.
Well, going back to Chick.
Yeah, Chick Pearson.
Chick Pearson brings to mind the Sunshine Club and the 400 Club. Can you tell me what you know about?
You mean the Sunshine Circle Club?
The church, yeah, but there was a 400
Well, the 400 Club, I remember.
They gave a birthday party for Wayne and her brother when she was 16.
Yes, and at that time, it was, but...
that was in West Rehoboth,
It was in West Rehoboth. That's all I know is that there was, because I guess I lived a sheltered life.
Maybe it was for older people.
It could have been, but Wayne and Wardell had their birthday party, so they were only 16.
But I don't know if they belong. Maybe their parents
belonged to it. I don't have the history on that.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
How about the Sunshine Circle Club?
Now, the Sunshine Circle Club is still in existence, but I don't think I don't know if they actually had a building. It was just a group of women, and they went around, doing all kinds of things for the good of the community, and they still are in existence.
Like June 19th?
June 19th.
Not 19th, but...
Yeah. Did they do that?
Juneteenth,
but I don't think they may still do something with another group. They of course they support other groups, but I don't think that they actually have a Juneteenth celebration themselves.
I think they did something in conjunction with the museum over in the park, didn't they?
Here?
Mm-hmm.
We did. I was a part of that as well. Yes, I would say that was part of the Sunshine. Well, Wayne Paskins was involved in it, and so was our minister, Reverend Belmont Burns. She was very instrumental in helping to get that together as well. And it was rained out, so we ended up in this room. But it was a good start.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
A great start.
So let's move on into your work career. When you were young, you worked in Rehoboth when you were still in school. So let's go through your work career from there up to, I think you worked for a state senator. Didn't you?
U.S.
Or
Senator.
Governor, U.S. Senator.
U.S. Senator.
Okay, so can you kind of
Okay.
give a chronology of your work experience? Because I
Okay,
find it very
yeah.
interesting.
Oh, yeah. Actually, when I was in high school, there was a Wall Smith's Variety downtown Rehoboth, and Scott.
I did an oral history with Scott Wolf.
Isn't he a wonderful person? He's such a nice person, he and his wife. So
They were in town and on the boardwalk?
they were in town, but they also had a store in Bethany. So, yeah, and I worked there, met a lot of people. As you can tell, I like people. So I met a lot of people, but the Wall Smiths are another wonderful family.
This would have been what, in the 70s,
yeah,
60s,
well,
60s? Late
Yeah,
60s?
I think, like I came to the school in 67. I think I worked there 67, 68. And then after I got married, I was still here. And I had we had Barry, our first. And I would work there on weekends or something other like that to get me away from Barry. Give me a break. And then after that, let's see, we went to Alexandria for a while until Parnell got out of the Army. And then
What did he do there?
he actually went to Vietnam, so he was in those big earth things. He was kind of a mechanic. I don't think he did too much in Vietnam. I think you would have to know my husband. All he did, he liked to sleep, eat Breyer's butter pecan ice cream and Oreo cookies. And that would be his dinner, lunch, yeah, he was quite a character.
That was a big deal at Snyder's in the old days,
Oh
the
my
butter pecan.
gosh, yes.
Did you all go to Snyder's?
We did.
I'm regressing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We did go there and to get ice cream. Yeah. And that was a big
Okay,
deal.
so back to Alexandria.
So Alexandria, and then when we came back to Delaware, of course it was hard for him to get a decent job, so he was doing this, that, and the other. We were actually we had a place of our own. I think we did. That's when we had a mobile home where we live now. And so I went to NCR cash registers were in Millsboro. So I went to work there, and was that a thrill? And eye awakener as well. I was an inspector, and therefore I would sometimes condemn white males' jobs that they did. And I do remember once one looked at me and he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "The same thing you're doing here, collecting a paycheck." And believe it or not, he and I got to be friends.
Stuck by your guns.
Yeah. And then after that, I went to PNC Bank. And I was there for 20 years. I did 18 years in Millsboro, and I did
Were you in customer service?
I was. Well, I was customer service / teller supervisor. And also I was going when I was in Millsboro, after I would work all day, then I would go to Del Tech and take classes. I ended up at Wilmington College because PNC Bank had a program that if you went to school and you got a C or better, they would pay for your education. Well, I was always on the dean's list. All I had to do was buy my books. You could buy used books. So that's how I got my bachelor's degree in business management.
Did you ever apply for financial aid?
No, I did not. I was going to do it on my own. I had to do it that way. So I got it. I made it. Sometimes I think I torture myself by taking the long way around, but I'm okay. That's me.
Well, you have to live with yourself.
Yeah, I do. And I always thought there's other people who are in worse predicaments than I was in. That's the same as when we were growing up. By today's standards, we were poor. But we did not know we were poor because we had everything we needed. We had food, we had shelter, and we had love. Our parents loved us. Our extended family loved us. What did we need?
Did you have a garden growing up?
Oh my gosh, That's why I don't have one today. Because yes, we had a vegetable garden. We had a huge garden. Of course, we had to pick that. I thought, yeah, when I get to be an adult, I'm not having a garden. Well, I do have gardens, but now they're flower gardens. But that's going to end real soon because the deer eat all of my flowers. They don't care. And they're so hungry because all the development here and their habitat's gone. So they eat from Biles' yard. And everyone else.
And everybody else.
Absolutely.
I live on the wetlands over in Bay Vista area.
Yes.
And they swim over from Thompson Island and they just eat, and we don't have fences, and they just go around the neighborhood and eat everybody's
Flowers.
whatever,
Yeah.
flowers or grass.
Yeah,
or
whatever. That's,
But they're God's creatures and you have to,
But
put
I
up with it.
wish God's creatures would go in the next yard and leave mine alone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that the PNC job, and then you went.
After PNC, I was off for maybe 6 months. And then Senator Carper, I was told that he had an opening, a position, and I went and I applied for that, and I got it. So I worked for him for 14 years, and I was
Dover?
in Georgetown.
Georgetown.
Yeah, and he's a great person. He really is. He wanted to make sure that everybody had to go to DC. I mean, even though he had state offices, the state offices handled all of the constituents, and the DC office all of the legislative ends of it. So I actually was a constituent service person, and my specialties were anything to deal with the State Department, which was passports and visas, and also helping people get their families here, which was USCIS, Customs and Immigration Services. And I really, really loved that. I loved the people that I met, the constituents that would come in needing help. But also I talked a lot to the embassies and consulate offices overseas, and I got to meet a lot of people that way as well. It was quite an experience.
Where'd you live in D.C.?
I did not live in.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
live in
I never.
DC.
No, we were only in Alexandria, Virginia when we.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, he would want us to go to the senator. Well, we would go to D.C. if there was a meeting or a conference that we should attend, and I liked doing that because of course we had nice places to stay, and we were close. We could walk wherever we wanted, wherever we needed to go. So that's why we were more or less on the hill or close to the hill. But it was a wonderful experience.
So was that the end of your work career? Did you retire after that, or?
I did.
I
I
know you're
retired after that. But I'm not going back to work anymore. Then I went to work for the cancer support community, and
Tell me a little bit about that. Didn't your husband?
My husband
pass
died of
from
a glioblastoma, which is a brain cancer, and they were very instrumental in that. Actually, I was referred to them by the social worker at Tunnel Cancer at that time, and not so much for him, but for me, because they felt that I needed the outlet because I was right there with him day in and day out. I did have his older sister, my sister-in-law, she moved in with us because I continued to work at Senator Carper's office, and he made it perfectly clear, and the staff all knew that if I needed to go and be with my husband, I could. So he actually bought a computer and set it up in my home, and it was like I was working in the office. And then when I would, we wrote probably 50 to 100 letters a day, I would send it, and the intern in the actual office would print it and mail it out. And they did not think that I was going to work, but that was my outlet. I would go in the dining room and I would sit there and do that while he was out in the sunroom, and maybe his sister was out there with him. and that was my break. But
You got to get your mind off of it.
yes, so I went to the cancer support community, and at that time it was just cancer support. It was a small group, and it was off of Route 1, and I would go there and sit in their group, their group. There were just different groups, but I didn't want to stay for the exercise, which was another part of it. So they kept saying, "Oh, come on, come on, come on," which I didn't do. But they were there for me, and that was so helpful. So when the opportunity came for me to go to work for them for one day a week, and I did it because I kind of felt like I owed them that. They were there for me. So once I did that, and I actually resigned from there. I did it for 4 years. I actually resigned June of this year because I also helped to care for an elderly cousin who has dementia. So I was working with her on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then there was days where we have to. I share the responsibility with another cousin, where we have to go to grocery shopping. You have to take her to the doctor. She has appointments and things that she has to do. So it kind of did not leave much time for me as a retired person. So I resigned from there, so I have free time to spend it with people like you.
Well, you're kind, thank you. But you're on the board here at the museum.
I am on the board here at the museum, yeah.
And you have your church.
I have my church, and I am also active members of the Links Incorporated, the Dover chapter of that. And
what is that? What is Links?
The Links is a organization of women, Black women, and again, we're supporting the community. We're there to help the community. And also, I'm with Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, who also are community oriented. So I keep busy.
You do keep busy,
Yeah.
but you have to.
Oh gosh, yeah, you do, or else you get old.
Who would you consider to be the most influential people in your life? Of course, your father.
Yeah, my father, my sister.
Any teachers? Any special teachers?
Mrs. Bertha Turner, who's still alive today. I think she's 98 years old. I'm trying to think. Oh my gosh, there have been so many people. My aunt Irene Duffy, and she's in her 90s. All these people,
Does she live here?
She does. She lives on Wolf Neck Road. Yeah, and she works her puzzles, and they take very, very good care of her. But she's such a sweet person, and when you come in, she just makes you feel so welcome. And even when you've done something bad, she would still make you feel good. Yeah.
Oh, from your experience, what advice would you give to young people in general,
Mm-hmm.
people of color in particular, starting out on what path to follow, what direction to go in life, what to watch out for?
But here's the thing, I always knew, I had my own mind. And I knew, the experiences I had with, let's say, color, they made me strong. Because I was determined I was going to be somebody. And I am somebody. And I was not going to let anyone destroy that. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm a success. I'm somebody. So I would just say, find out who you are. Find out who you are, and do not get off that path. Just stay focused. You'll make it.
To thine own self be true.
To thine own self be true. Exactly.
Excellent advice. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add? Going back through your life, you know it better than I do. Anything that you'd like to talk about? Any experiences you had, like an early experience in your childhood that was kind of fun or not so fun, or?
It wasn't so fun because I had all brothers, all male brothers and cousins. I was the only female in the family for 11 years.
So you got picked on.
They did, but that made me tough. It's like, oh, you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back, and yeah, I was okay.
Were you a tomboy?
Yes, I was. I was. My mother and my sister wanted me to be this little priss, and they would put dresses and bows on my hair, and I would go outside, climb a tree, and tear the dress. So yeah, I was at that time. I was a tomboy, and then later on, say 13 or 14, I started being a sissy. So.
Did you play sports in school?
I did not, because I was afraid I was getting hurt. I'll be honest with you. And I remember playing hockey, and they get whacked on the knees and all that. No. And basketball, no. They might hit me in the no.
Well, I think that about does it.
Okay.
Unless you want to add something else.
I can't think of anything else.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your many contributions and for sitting down with me today and having this discussion. It's been a delight.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure seeing you.